my initial reaction is I'm scared. Like, I don't know what is happening. Am I dying? Like, why am I losing so much blood?
Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you are all doing well. I don't know if it's because I was super nervous to record this video and tell this story that I did not record an intro for you guys, which does not make sense. But in today's video, I am going to be telling you the story about how I found out I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so trigger warning, in this video I am going to be talking about blood, periods, and also themes about mental health. And so if those sorts of things and those kinds of conversations trigger you in any way, go and watch something a bit more lighthearted, like last week's Chit Chat Get Ready With Me when I was talking about relationship goals and cheating men. Maybe that would be better for your evening. But yeah, let's just get into this story and I will talk to you guys very soon.
I don't know why I feel a bit weird telling this story. I've told so many stories here on YouTube before, but this one just seems so like, I don't know, I've told personal stuff on YouTube before anyway, but it feels very like personal. I think because this is one of the it was one of the most, I wouldn't say traumatic, but like one of the biggest events to ever happen in my life, and it really changed my entire life, I'd say. So yeah, but I've seen like a lot of you girls saying you have PCOS too, and sometimes you can feel quite alone because whilst quite a few women do have and do suffer from PCOS, it's hard sometimes to find people in your circle who actually have it, and also to explain it to people who don't have it in order to look for support from them. I started my period quite early in life, I'd say. I got my first proper period when I was 11. So I remember the day to the T. It was January 20th, 2009. And the only reason why I remember the date was because when I came back from school, basically, so I found out I had my period at school. It was a PE lesson, a faithful PE lesson, and I went into the toilet to change. I went to the bathroom and lo and behold, blood. I was now becoming a woman, and it was interesting. I wasn't scared or anything, and I went home and I told my mom, and that's why I can remember the date, because when I got home, my mom was watching Barack Obama's first inauguration, which was January 20th, 2009. And literally from then on, things were actually smooth sailing. All the products will be listed down below as always. But yeah, since then, everything was super smooth sailing because my period was very predictable. Between the ages of, I'd say 11, like the time I got my first period, to 17, I knew when my period was coming and pretty much like how it would behave for the days that I had it. So my period would usually last 4 days. It was very smooth. I got it very easy. My period would usually last 4 days, and on the second day, that was the only day that I would experience any pain or discomfort, and it would come on the 21st of every month. It was like clockwork. Now, I didn't learn what PCOS was until I was about maybe 15, and that was due to things like social campaigns on social media. I can't remember her name, but I'll put it on the screen. There was a campaign with a particular lady who actually had like a full beard, and that was the first time I ever like heard about PCOS, ever saw somebody who actually had it. But I didn't like research into it. I just thought, oh, okay, like it's always great when there are awareness campaigns like that, because so many people who are ignorant like me of the different things that women are going through and the different things women can suffer from, they get educated, right? And so whilst I didn't do a lot of research into it, it was something that I knew of. And so pretty much through all of my teen years, things were all good period-wise. I wasn't experiencing anything abnormal. There was nothing that I ever had to really flag for like 5 years. My period was Gucci, like I was good. And then I turned 17. And when I turned 17, a lot happened to me in that stage of my life. A lot. Like when I say a lot was going on, I was studying, I was working, my mom was ill, I was applying to uni, I was applying to Cambridge of all places, life was stressful, interview prep, and I was still working while studying. I think I've told this story so many times in so many different places, but life was hard. Life was hard, I'm not even gonna front. And so my body was obviously under a lot of stress, and unfortunately in February 2015, I don't know if I've ever really said this on YouTube, but I overdosed on paracetamol. I tried to take my own life, and it was very like like I said, it was a stressful time. A lot was happening to me mentally, and I started to see the effects of that physically, because obviously with so much happening and such pressure riding on that, especially the academic year of my life, between the ages of 17 to 18, so this would have been my last year in secondary school / high school, the physical effects that the stress was having was plenty. You know, I wasn't really sleeping, I wasn't really eating well, I was depressed, I was anxious. And whilst I didn't really ever receive like a clinical diagnosis, because another thing about me, which I think helps to aid this story, is I don't go to the GP. Think of that what you will, but literally there was a time growing up where my GP had to ask my mum, like, has your daughter left the country? Does she still live in the city? Because I don't see her. I haven't seen her since she was like 6. I didn't go to the GP because I was pretty much always well. I have a very strong immune system, thank God, and I hope it continues that way. I have a pretty strong immune system. I never really got sick, and so I didn't really go to the GP, and therefore I think there wasn't really a lot of opportunity, especially when I turned to becoming a teenager and I became more and more responsible for my own health. There wasn't really a lot of opportunity for me to become diagnosed with something, or for the GPs to notice anything, because I wasn't flagging anything. And even when I was, you know, feeling the physical effects of stress on my body, it wasn't something that I was really gonna go to the GP for, because I was attributing everything to the stresses that were in my life at the time. So basically, when I turned 17, that's when I started to notice my period. I started to notice because that's when it started happening. My period became irregular. And when I say irregular, I mean like it would come one month, then it wouldn't come another month, and then it would come the next month, but it wouldn't be on the day it usually came. And because I was so used to my period schedule, it became noticeable to me that, okay, my flow is not the same, things are not usually the way that it is, but I obviously attributed it to stress, and therefore I didn't flag it with anyone. Like, I didn't tell my parents, I didn't tell my GP, absolutely no way. I didn't really tell anyone until I had noticed that for 6 months straight, between, I'd say, January to June, I hadn't had my period once. And that was alarming to me, because I knew that was like not normal. I knew that, like, okay, yeah, you've been stressed, but to not have had a single period in 6 months, that might be something you want to talk to somebody about. So I took it up with my mum. Both my parents are nurses. Shout out to my parents. And so I was quite comfortable talking to them about any medical issues that I felt like I had. Of course, they wouldn't like diagnose me or anything or treat me. They would direct me to a GP. But any questions that I had about my health in any capacity, even if it was sexual health, I did actually feel very comfortable talking to my parents. And my parents were quite knowledgeable about it as well. So I brought it up to both of my parents, because I do feel comfortable talking to my dad about these kinds of things too. And he was just like, yeah, you know, we should definitely keep an eye on that, and you might want to go and like see your GP. But with me, like, being somebody who drags their feet when it comes to going to see the GP, going to the hospital, I just thought, it will come. Like, the period has stopped for 6 months because a lot has been happening in my life. You know, whilst I haven't had a period in January to June, in February, I was laying up in the hospital because of this overdose. And I've had like my A2 exams, which were my final A-level exams, which were the exams I needed to take to get my final grades to get into Cambridge. So that was super stressful. I was just like, it's stress. Like, this is the most stressed I have ever been, and it's not normal to be this stressed at 17. So if my period has said, you know, babes, I don't need to come and add to your wahala, I'm not going to be mad. And then when I got to uni, I think one thing that also delayed me actually from not registering for the GP, going to see my GP, was knowing that I was going to change GP because I was about to move to another city to go to uni. And so this is 2015. In October 2015, I went to university, and I still haven't seen my period. So like I said, the last period I had seen in 2015 was in January, and it was now all the way in October, 10 months later. And I get to uni, and one of the first things I do is register for a GP, and I was fine. Like, I didn't need to go to the GP once. My period still wasn't coming until November came. Now, I've been in uni for 1 month at this point, getting used to the work schedule, and obviously moving, not only like moving to a new city, that's stressful, but also living by myself for the first time, that's stressful. Being away from like my family, I'm being really far away from my family. Well, for me, it was quite far. I've never lived outside of home. That was quite stressful. University, my university workload was super intense. Being in a new space and trying to adjust and find new friends, that was stressful. My course was stressful, just so much, right? So I hadn't seen my period, and then in November, one fateful day, I wake up in the middle of the night and I get up to go and pee, and literally as I'm walking out of my bed, blood just gushing everywhere. And like I said, my flow before used to be normal. Like it was nothing that I needed to like wear 2 pads, or I didn't have a heavy flow. I knew that for myself. I knew that I would like never soil through clothing when I had my period. I was fine. But suddenly I was bleeding like I had been shot. Like I was bleeding. And so I was very alarmed, and it's like super early in the morning and I didn't really know what to do. So I just get in the shower. I'm still bleeding a lot, and I noticed that not only am I like bleeding a lot, my lower back is aching me, so I can't even like stand up straight, and I have a very high pain threshold. I am fine. Like when I got my tattoos, barely a scratch. Like when I'm sick, I downplay it. Well, not that I downplay it, I don't really feel it unless I'm sick, and everyone knows that. So I got to this point where I was like, I'm in pain. Like I'm actually in pain. I feel like craps. What is going on? So my initial reaction is I'm scared. Like I don't know what is happening. Am I dying? Like why am I losing so much blood? And when I say I was bleeding, like it wasn't like squirting out or anything, but it was droplets just going down my leg, like actual streams of blood coming down my leg. Going onto my carpet in my uni room. Shout out to my housekeeper who actually helped me maneuver through many awkward situations as I was experiencing this new amount of flow, because I would like soil through my bed sheets, I would soil through clothes with my bleeding. Like how much I was bleeding was alarming, and it frankly made me very uncomfortable and self-conscious as the months would unfold, but I'll explain that. So when I had gotten out of bed and I had seen that amount of blood, my first reaction was obviously to get into the shower, to not only wash it off, but also to try and find out what the heck is going on. And as I'm in the shower and I'm hosing, or like I'm washing and I'm like running the water with the shower head, I just feel a very weird sensation in my vagina. And I was like, what the heck? What is trying to pass through me? Because this is a lot. What I could literally feel something is coming out of me. This is weird. And obviously I'm laughing now. In that moment I was crying. Like I was actually tears streaming from my eyes, because this to me is quite traumatic. And I'm there like, okay, something is trying to come out of me. So I just squat a little bit, and all I hear is like a thud it wasn't like a really heavy thud, but I hear like okay, something has come out of me, and I felt it come out. I look down, and obviously the water is streaming, so it's streaming down. This massive, and I mean alarmingly sized, blood clot. And I was like, I'm dying. What on earth? And this is scary for me. I'm in the shower, and literally I just see that, and it's like I don't know how to explain the size of this clot. You see this beauty blender, imagine like this much of it. This much of the beauty blender, that's the size of the clot. Alarming. And I'm just seeing it flow like through, and it's even struggling to like go down the plug hole. And I'm like, yeah, so I just freeze. I literally just freeze. No one's in the house. Obviously I don't live with anybody, I live by myself in my uni accommodation. I only have one friend in my campus, and he's a boy. So who you gonna call? So yeah, I hobble my way out of the shower and back into bed, and I lay down like a towel and literally put like 3 pads in my like knickers, and I just lie down, and I couldn't fall asleep. As soon as the sun came up and it was early enough, like reasonable, I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, this is what's happening. And she's like, you need to get your ass to the GP. So I book an emergency appointment to go to the GP, and I walk there. I didn't go to any of my lectures that day because I was traumatized, right? And on top of that, my back is in severe pain. Like my lower back, I have never felt a pain like that before. So I was like, okay, this is strange. Go and see my GP that day. Unfortunately, this was a GP system which I was not familiar with and I did not like. I have had the same GP for my whole life up until this point. This GP, the way it's set up is every time you go, they match you with a new GP in the clinic. So the GP is not just for one practitioner. Do you get what I mean? Like there will be like 6 people in the GP offices, and you go and see the one that's free. And so I go and see this lady, and I'm like to her, okay, this is what's happened. Quite traumatized, a lot of blood, still bleeding, a lot of blood. This is the first time that this has ever happened to me. And she obviously opens up my medical record, and she's like, well, you know, you've had a very stressful year. Admittedly so. She was like, you've had a very stressful year. You've just moved to a very stressful university. You're a fresher. You're getting used to this. Your body is adjusting to this. And like you said, you haven't seen your period in a long while. And yada, yada, yada. In February, you had, you know, your overdose, you know, your body might just be adjusting and it's probably just stress. So I was like, okay, yeah, I get the whole stress argument, but this is a lot of blood. I need you to do something about this, right? And she's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to prescribe you some ibuprofen, which is a painkiller, and you just go and pick that up. When I went to buy that ibuprofen, first I had to buy it, and she was like, you know, that was a big shock for me. Not that I had to buy that I had to buy the drugs, because this is the first time I'm proper adulting out here. I've got to buy my own medication. This is my mum's duties, you know. And how come it's not free? I'm young, 18. So yeah, she prescribes to me ibuprofen, but because of my paracetamol scare, and because I knew that ibuprofen is not going to directly treat anything, because she hasn't diagnosed me with anything, and ibuprofen is a painkiller, I would rather like go through the pain, because I've had this scare, and my liver has had this shock from consuming all those drugs and that paracetamol in February, and I don't know where my health is. I don't want to take medicine, and I've never been a medicine person anyway, especially for like painkillers, unless it's bad, you know. So I was just like, I'm not gonna take the ibuprofen. So I bought it anyway, just in case I got into like dire situation. But that's what I basically left the GP with, you know. I explained to her my pain, and she was just like, yeah, okay, take some painkillers, sis, and come back in a few days if things are persistent. I'm thinking, sis, I'm losing like more than the recommended tablespoon amount of blood, okay? I need you to pay attention to me. I'm bleeding. Like, this ain't drip, drip, soil pad. This is drip, drop, bleed out. Somebody has stabbed me. Like, I'm bleeding and it's scaring me. So I went home, and for the next few days, the flow continued at the same intensity as it had been. And that was also very scary, because it didn't lighten up. And so now, this period that I'm so used to, first of all, how did I know it was a period? Pretty much just the clots and the GP's reassurance, but it could have been anything else. Oh no, I can't set my makeup. I haven't done my brighter highlight. Oh dear. I'm here like, okay, I'm just going to take this one step at a time. Obviously, I update my mum on what's happening, and she's like, okay, if that's what the GP has said, for the next few days, I just want you to like basically rest up, see how the flow is, update me on anything, but if it gets really bad, go to the hospital. So I was like, okay, cool. I spent the next few days at home, and like I said, the flow didn't let up. Like, it wasn't getting any better. Still, these really big clots are coming, and I'm very scared. But like I said, my period is quite predictable. So in my head, I'm thinking this is only gonna last 4 days, then we can figure out what the hell that was. It didn't last 4 days. The pain didn't last just 1 day like it usually did. My period lasted for 10 days. What the hell? For 10 days, I was bleeding, and I was bleeding heavy. As in, like, I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to go out anywhere, because I knew I was going to soil through my clothes. I didn't understand like how to like stop myself from soiling through my clothes. I was having to change like my pads and stuff like every 2 hours. I was bleeding. And I was scared every single day of the way. I was like in pain. I think the clots, like I said, they didn't get any smaller. Now the powder has mixed with my concealer. I don't like that. Anyways, the pain wasn't going away, and I was extremely tired as well as quite depressed because I didn't know what the hell was going on. So I was extremely anxious, and I was missing a lot of lectures. And there used to be this joke amongst my friends like, Courtney is never in lectures, but that was why, because when this thing would come, I ain't leaving the house. I'm not leaving my bed. I would like close my blackout blinds and just lie down. And I didn't really tell anyone about it apart from my mum and my dad. And they were just like, okay, yeah, I really want you to go and get this checked out. But every time I would go to the GP, okay, let me explain. So that happened, then that period stopped. And then for 3 months, nothing. I didn't get a period. It didn't like regulate my period. It didn't come every month after that. I would get my period at the beginning of like every term. I would come back to uni and it's like my body knew, you're at uni again, bleed, you know? So at the beginning of every term, my period would start, and my period would last about 10 to 12 days. Imagine for nearly 2 weeks bleeding, and just like bleeding a lot, and your back is hurting you, you're constantly tired. That was like my main symptoms. And for that whole year of first year, I would go back to the GP and they would just be like, your body is stressed, your body is stressed, your body is stressed. And I just got sick and tired of it because first of all, I don't even like coming to the GP. Second of all, you guys aren't helping me because you're not listening to the fact that this is abnormal for me. Yes, I know my environment has gone through many changes. Yes, I know I have been stressed, but I know my body. This is not normal. Something is wrong. And so every time I would go to the GP, I think one of the biggest issues as to why I wasn't diagnosed with something, even though I complained so many times, was because every time I would go to the GP, I would see somebody new. And that was another reason why I was just like, you know what, forget it, I'm not going, because I have to keep starting the story from scratch because you keep giving me somebody new every time. I haven't had the same GP twice. And so I was just like, okay, you know what? I'll just fix this when I go back to London. But then in the summer, so this is the summer of 2016, the academic year is drawing to an end. And my mum was just like, no, you know what? I'm not going to accept that you're giving up. We're going to figure out what's wrong. So she was like, do you want me to refer you to a gynecologist at like at the hospital that I work at? And I was like, no, I don't think this is a big issue. Like, I don't think this is I need to go to the hospital issue. I'll solve it with my GP. Please don't escalate this for me. Because mums can be dramatic, and me too, I'm scared. So I was like, okay, let me give it one more shot at seeing the GP. And so I go, and there's this GP lady who's like, okay, let's look into what you have. And I think I was a bit more open as well to give it a try, because when I walked into this GP appointment, the GP was a black woman. And think of that what you will, but I think I had this feeling that she would be more empathetic to me. As somebody who was studying political and social sciences, I was very clued up on the medical biases the biases that can exist in the medical field towards black people, especially black women, when it comes to them expressing their levels of pain. And at that point, I felt as though people hadn't really taken seriously the levels of pain and discomfort, and also mental discomfort that I was expressing that I was at when it came to this. And so for me, I was very dissatisfied with the level of effort that was being put. Something is in my eye. I was very dissatisfied with the level of effort that was being put into finding out what was wrong with me. I felt like people they were taking the easy way out by just attributing it to stress, because yes, whilst that can be probably the biggest contributing factors, it doesn't stop the fact that medically there is clearly an issue here, which is far more than just like psychosomatic, or just because I'm stressed, or because, mentally I'm depressed or anxious. Like, I need you to realize that there's something wrong with my body. This is not normal. And so I explained to her for the first time again everything that has happened, and she was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna put you through checks, because every quarter you seem to be having a period. It seems to be more painful. You've clearly described that it's abnormal. I'm gonna refer you to have an ultrasound. I'm going to schedule for you to have a blood test. So she scheduled for me to have a blood test. Was it a blood test or was it a urine test? I think it was both. I think I had blood drawn and urine taken. So both of the test results came back from my GP, and they informed me nothing seems abnormal. Like, your testosterone levels are a little bit high, but everything else it's not really like striking a cause for concern. There's nothing like particularly that we can point out to be wrong that could be like contributing to your issue. So I'm here thinking, okay, I'm cool. So I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. Once the GP that had referred me to go and get the blood test and the urine samples had seen the results, she said, okay, one thing that she's also going to do is organize for me to also get an ultrasound, because sometimes blood work and urine samples don't give you the full picture. So she was like, I'm going to organize for you to get an ultrasound, just so that we can have a look at what's going on in your uterus. You know, we want to know what's happening in there. So I was like, okay, cool. So she organized for me to have a ultrasound. The day comes for me to get an ultrasound, and it was like 6 weeks later. Finally go and get the ultrasound, and we'll finally go to the appointment to have the ultrasound. I get there, I'm waiting, my appointment time has passed. So I'm thinking, is anyone gonna come and see me? Like, I've been here, I've been waiting for like 20 minutes. Then 30 minutes go by, then 35. So I'm like to the receptionist, I had an appointment about 35 minutes ago to have an ultrasound. I'm a student, I have a lecture to go to. Can I reschedule my appointment, or is somebody gonna see me? And she was like, okay, let me like call one of the people that work there, one of the medical assistants or whatever. Because it wasn't like, I don't think they were nurses, but they also weren't like, they weren't doctors either, because it wasn't a hospital, it was a pharmacy. So I was like, okay, can you like, she was like, okay, let me get you an update on what's going on. So they come and they're like, oh, unfortunately, you're the only person that we had scheduled for an ultrasound. However, the ultrasound machine has not been delivered from the hospital to our pharmacy, so we can't give you the ultrasound today. I'm here trying to figure out the biggest secret of my life. And you're here telling me somebody didn't deliver the ultrasound machine from the hospital to the pharmacy. So obviously I'm frustrated, and I can't get angry at them because it's no one's fault. Do you get what I mean? Like, well, whoever was meant to do the delivery is their fault. But I can't get mad, I can't get pissed. So I was like, okay, cool. Can I reschedule an ultrasound appointment? They were like, yeah, sure. The only free slot we have is in about 7 weeks. It's nearly summertime, babes. I'm not from this city. Cambridge is not my home. I live in London. I'm going to London, and I'm not going to come back here to get an ultrasound appointment. So I told her, you know what, don't worry about it. If I can go back to London and get an ultrasound like scheduled there, then I'll just do that. And she was like, okay, we can actually refer you to get an ultrasound done in London so that you don't have to come back to Cambridge to get it. So they looked around my local area to book an ultrasound for me, and they found one near my house. So when I got back to London that summer, I had an ultrasound like a week later. Have this ultrasound now, and I'm lying on the bed, and they were like, okay, we could do it like the classic way, obviously like put the scan over your stomach, or we can do like the internal one. I was like, I'm not having something go up. The way she explained it, I said, honey, I know it might give you a better image, but that sounds scary. So I don't want you to put a long camera up my vagina. I just want you to do the normal ultrasound one. So I lie down, and the nurse, why am I not doing makeup? I lie down, and the nurse, you know, puts the gel on and stuff, and she's having a look around, and she finds something. She starts typing something. So I'm like, oh, what have you found? She's like, I can't tell you the results. That is for the doctor to tell you. I just looked at her, and she looked at me, and she was like, everything will be fine. And in that moment, I knew she's found something. Like, I felt it in my heart. I remember I went home, and I felt super sad. I'm using the Chem Beauty Aurora palette, and I'm currently using the shade Eve to put in my transition, I'm using it as a transition shade. Wow, the words are not coming. So I left that appointment feeling kind of scared and kind of sad, because in my head I'm thinking, yeah, she's found something, and I have a reason to be a little bit panicked. And so when I got home, because obviously I'm back in London now, I updated my mom. She was like, you know what, everything's going to be okay. Let's just pray. You'll be fine. And I can't remember how long it was, but a few like weeks, it wasn't that long. I would say maybe like 10, 14 days, I got back the results, and they were like, you know, well, I didn't get back the results. They're like, we've got the results. They called me, and they were like, we've got the results. Please, could you come to your GP? So a very annoying thing is when you move around, you have to re-register GP wherever you are. So because I had gotten this ultrasound in London, they could obviously send my results back to Cambridge, but to give me the results, they couldn't give me the results over the phone. So they were like, you have to come in for an appointment. So I was like, okay, let me re-register at my local GP, and I'll just go there to get my results. So my local GP calls me, and they're like, okay, we've got your results, you need to come in. I was scared whatless. Like, I was scared. I go into the appointment, they call me in to have an appointment, and she's like, yes, so unfortunately we found that you have, from the ultrasound, we found that you have cysts on your ovaries, an abnormal amount of cysts on your ovaries. So you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and that explains why your period has been abnormal. And then she started to list out other symptoms. And I think this is another thing where, like, what made people not assume I had PCOS, because they're like, oh, do you experience, because at a few appointments, I had been asked, oh, do you experience like excessive hair growth anywhere? And I was like, no. Do you have like acne or acne prone skin? No. Do you experience body acne? No. What about on your back? No. Do you, like, all these different symptoms? And I was like, I don't experience any of these things. The only thing that has, like, is really a symbol that I might have PCOS is being overweight and finding it very difficult to lose weight and very easy to gain weight. And also my period, like, my period has started being irregular, and that's it. And they were just like, yeah, you know, you've got PCOS and you have a bit of insulin resistance and you're more prone to getting things like type 2 diabetes and just diabetes in general, and diabetes already ran in my family. So as she's telling me all of this stuff, she's like, we just recommend incorporating exercise, eating better, like healthier choices, but this is something that you've always had, and it will be something that you'll always have. In my head, all I'm hearing is, I'm never going to be able to have kids. Like, that's all I'm thinking. She's like, oh, I know you're probably thinking about kids. Obviously, I know you're young. You're only like 18. You're only 19. Sorry, at this point, I've turned 19 because it's the summer of 2016. She's like, oh, I know you're probably thinking about like having kids and stuff. But, you know, there's so much technology out there, and there are so many like accounts of women with PCOS who have easily conceived, and yes, it might be hard, but you know, you don't have to think about that now. All I'm thinking is, I'm never going to be able to have kids. Like, that's all I'm thinking as she's talking to me. And she was like, I need to schedule in a follow-up appointment with you to explain to you further the implications this has on your health and choices that you should be making now in order to kind of ease this situation and dealing with this syndrome for the rest of your life. But at the appointment, what she offered me was, if you want to like synthesize basically a period every month and make an attempt to regulate your hormones, I can prescribe to you birth control pills. And so I was asking her questions. I was like, okay, so will this birth control pill make my actual period come back? She was like, no. It will synthesize a period. Like, it would look like you're having a period. Why would I want the inconvenience of having a period when my body's not even producing eggs? I want the eggs. I don't want the blood. That's the bit that I don't need the inconvenience of the period if there's no egg. Do you get what I mean? Because that's the valuable bit. And she was like, yeah, it won't do that. And I was just thinking in my head, if my hormones are already, you know, looking a little bit imbalanced, why would I then want to put in more hormones into my body from a synthetic thing to make them even more irregular, just so I can have a period, which is not really a period. So in my head, because I couldn't understand it, I was like, this is not a solution, and I want a solution. So if I can, you know, solve this thing naturally, then I'd rather do that. Like, I don't want the drugs. So she was like, okay. And I just remember I left that GP appointment super duper sad, and I went home and, you know, told my parents, and my dad was just holding my hand as I was telling through the story, and he was like, well, how do you feel? And you know, my mum was across the room, and she was like, yeah, how are you feeling? And I just burst into tears. I just started crying, and then I'm so dramatic, and then I just started shouting. I was like, none of you understand how I feel, because they were like, oh, it's okay, you're going to be okay, don't worry, like, just have faith. And it was just pissing me off, because in my head I'm thinking, I just got diagnosed with this syndrome that apparently I've had for my whole life. I'm kind of pissed that nobody knew I had it, including myself. And secondly, you guys keep telling me to have hope and have faith and be okay. I'm still processing with the fact that I've got something I've got to live with for the rest of my life. And all I'm hearing in my head is, I'm never gonna be able to have kids. Like, is no one else alarmed? Why are you not sharing my alarm with me? And I was upset. I was kind of angry. And so I started shouting. Those are emotions that I feel very dominantly anger. So I was like, I just started shouting. I was sad, I was upset, I was kind of disappointed as well. And I just started shouting. I was like, none of you understand what I'm going through. And thank God my parents were like, she's going through something, because I deserved to be slapped that day. That day I was doing entirely too much. Sorry, I'm just putting Deep and Cacao in my, let me actually zoom you in a little bit. Also, I know this lighting is entirely trash. Please, please forgive me. Oh, this lighting is doing something. But yeah, so I deserved to be hit that day, but they didn't. They could tell, like, I'm not processing through this well. I think that's the main thing that anyone can tell. I am not processing through this news well. I'm not dealing with this well at all. And so from time to time, my mum would just be like, you know what, like, of course it's okay. But I didn't even want to research into it too tough on my own, because I just knew the internet can be wild. Like, I can go and be like, let me look into what other people's experiences is. And all I'm hearing is stories of like infertility, or, you know, the side effects of PCOS. So it's not just like a fertility issue. Like, it's also being able to lose weight, being like having diabetes, like all of these things were running through my head, and I didn't know what any of them meant. And I also didn't have like resources and knowledge of where to go. And at the moment, like at this time, I also wasn't thinking about doing all this mega level research, because in my head I'm thinking I'm just trying to process through the emotions of knowing that this is something that I have. And so, yeah, obviously the GP was like, I need to reschedule an appointment with you. And I told my friends, I told Renee, I told Rebecca. If you came to the Two My Sisters live show, then you actually met Rebecca. And then I told Renee, if you listen to the Two My Sisters podcast, or you've just watched any of the old vlogs, then you know Renee. Those are my two best friends. And I literally told them, and they were like, everything's gonna be all right, but we need to know what this means. Like, what decisions and what choices, and how do you need to live now? Like, what does this mean for you? And I was like, I really don't know. And I was just numb to the whole situation, because I had cried, and I was just like, I don't really know what this means, so why am I crying? Like, dead that. So I told them, and they were just like, okay, when's your GP appointment? And I told them it was in a few days. We were all at Rebecca's house, and they were like, I was like, it's in a few days. And they're like, we're coming with you. Do you want us to come with you? And I was like, yes, please. So when the day for my appointment came, Renee and Rebecca came to my appointment with me, and they were asking all the questions. The GP was there like, okay, so do you have questions for me? I was like, no. Like, I don't know what to ask. I don't know what to say. It's been a couple of days and I'm still trying to process through what's happening. But they were asking questions of like, okay, does this mean she has to eat different? like how can she avoid getting something like diabetes? How can she help regulate it? All of these questions, and they're asking, and after the appointment, they were like keeping me accountable. Okay, you need to lose weight, you need to like start eating better and stuff like that. They were not overbearing at all, and obviously they had my permission to be that involved in what was happening. And so yeah, that was basically how I found out I had PCOS. It was hard. Like, it was really, really hard. Like, I cannot lie to you. I actually thank God that, like, I had people. Like, I had my parents, my dad, my mom. They were super, like, supportive and being like, you know, you don't have to worry. And as much as it was annoying me, it was definitely what I needed to hear, because I was panicking. Like, I was really, really panicking. But also, I'm thankful that I had people around me who wanted to get educated about the issue, like, and who were to a degree already educated on the issues. You know, both my parents work in the medical field, and then my friends would like do research. And I remember when I got my therapist for better help, she would also do research into it and give me suggestions or give me like resources. And sometimes it can get a little bit like, I don't want to think about it. But also sometimes it can be helpful when they're just clued up on like what this means for my behavior. And I'm always like, because it feels sometimes quite unpredictable, it feels like I'm often learning about myself and learning about PCOS. And I'm going to use Mojito in the center of my eye, because I'm going to be wearing this cute pink top today. Yeah, it can sometimes feel like I'm learning about this on the go, because I really am. I'm definitely not an expert on PCOS, and I'm going to do a lot more research into it actually for myself. Having to learn that my body's like kryptonite is stress. My body does not deal well with stress, and this was a huge reason why last year the whole word for the year for me was rest. Like, for my health's sake, I needed to rest. Whenever I like meet another girl online who's like, I have PCOS, it's just this mutual like damn. Do you get what I mean? And I get it, because it's so hard. I think it's so unique. Like, every case is so unique, and it's so like, your symptoms might be so different to my symptoms, which means the life that you're living with PCOS may be so different to mine. And there's obviously all these women at different stages of their life. Some of them are having kids, some of them are trying for kids and have been trying for kids, and some of them are like, you know, just trying to lose weight and struggling with that. Some are on keto, some are not. Like, but being able to hear these experiences of women who are like, yeah, I have PCOS and this is what I'm doing. And I'm gonna leave, because I can't remember their names off head, but I'm going to leave names of accounts which have been helping me deal with, well, not deal with, but get educated on PCOS, and who are sharing their journey of their story, and also who are knowledgeable about it and stuff like that. Like, I'll link those down below. I'm just putting a little bit more of Mojito on my eyelid, and I find that when you apply it with your finger, it seems it comes across more pink, whereas you guys saw before when I had it on, it looked just more glittery, like it had those silver reflexes. So yeah, I like that. I'm going to take one of these like small brushes and just sweep a little bit of deep, which is like a deep burgundy brown, on my on my lower lash line. So yeah, this video isn't really like to educate, it's more so just to share my story and just to let the sisters know, like, you're really not alone. This is how I found out. And also, if you are somebody who it sounds like you have similar symptoms, or if you search for PCOS and it sounds like you have symptoms, please go and check it out. Because from what I understand, and I might be wrong, but you're born with this. Like, it's something you're born with, and it's something that you'll pretty much always live with, and it's something that can be managed, but it doesn't necessarily go away. Like, you're not cured, but it's good to just know. And I think I've always been like, I want to know. I just want to know what's going on so that I can devise a strategy that can best help me kind of improve my odds, really, at all the stuff that I want. So yeah, if you please go and get checked out. And it does, unfortunately, disproportionately affect women of color, but also with things like PCOS, endometriosis, like other I was about to say uterine issues, but like reproductive issues. Sometimes Black women are not listened to as much, and I think it's so important to just demand that. Like, it's so easy to just give up hope on like the medical system and be like, no one's going to listen to me, etc. But sometimes you just need to go in there, and even though the system might not be where it needs to be, you need to try and force it to be what it needs to be for you right now, you know. I'm going to use Chem Beauty's, well, this is really just the Chem Beauty tutorial, but I'm going to use Chem Beauty's Dakar as my blush, which is a lovely, just deep pink, or deep, like, yeah, just a deep blush color. I think this is the first time in a while that I'm doing like a look where I have like color on my eyelids and I'm going in, and I just wanted to just look pretty and look cute, really. There's no real reason behind it. I'm gonna use my Estee Lauder highlighter this is the Bronze Goddess in the shade Solar Crush 02 Solar Crush. And yes, it's, even if you are like me and you're like, nah, like I know my body, I know when I'm not okay, I know what to get, I'll just take some paracetamol, I'll just take some painkillers, I'm not going to go to the GP. Get yourself checked out. We're getting older, life is getting more real, more serious. Get used to going to get checkups and stuff. Like, even when it comes to getting our breasts checked, you know, getting our pap smears, like, girls, we've got to get on this. Our health really is the only thing that we need to keep going, you know. And it's really a gift from God to be healthy, and we've got to also play our part with wisdom to be able to get the help that we need. Because I will be a mother one day, and I'm not even just going to say I want to, I will be a mother one day. It's God that gives children, and I'm going to do my part to make sure I'm in line with everything that I want, you know. I'm wearing the same lashes that I wore in my last Chit Chat Get Ready With Me, which is Love Bite by Chem Beauty. I actually have a Chem Beauty discount code which you can use for 10% off their site. It is CD10. So definitely check that out. Chem Beauty products, my absolute fave. And then for lips, I am going to take MAC's Chestnut and just line my lips. Not too much. Yeah. And then I'm going to take this lip gloss by, it's actually from Primark. I've had it for a very long time. I need to buy new lip glosses. Let me know where you buy like your favorite lip glosses, your lipsticks, sorry. I'm a lip gloss girl, but I feel like I want more lipsticks. And this is just like, this is in the shade Velvet Touch, and it's just like a nude peach color. It has like more of an orange base to it. And then I'm going to take Chem Beauty's lip gloss in the shade. Oh, I am going to have to put the shade on the screen because it's not on the actual container. I'll put the shade name on the screen or in the description. And then it's just this lovely nude gloss. Is it Nude Taffy? Something like that? Yeah. I like that. Oh, look at the shine. Yes, girl. So yes, sis, this is the final look, and I hope that you enjoyed this story time. In terms of how I wanted to conclude it, obviously it's my story, and your story is going to be very different. Not just your story with PCOS, if you have it or you don't, but also your story and your journey with your health. And I think it's important, especially as I'm getting older, I'm realizing your health is super important. And I know a lot of us are in the gym, or maybe not, but we're getting those gains, or we have these body goals, and we have this idea of health which is so linked to aesthetics, which is not bad, you know. Reach your aesthetic goals, your body goals, and all of that. I think it's super important, but I think it's more important to have an awareness of what is happening around your health holistically. And you should really know where you are and take time to invest in really knowing your body, and paying attention to your body. And it's a huge part of not only self-care, but also being self-aware. Pay attention to your body. It deserves your attention. It deserves for you to understand what is normal and not normal. You know, do checks on your breast, pay attention to your cycle and whether it has its irregularities, whether it's normal. Only you can know that what is normal for somebody else might be completely irregular for you, you know. It's important for you to know your body for yourself, and really take time to invest in that, not just in what your body looks like on the outside, but also what your body looks like from the inside. And also know your body's history and your body's journey. You know, your body, it has been kind of made up before you were even born. You know, the history, your family's medical history, your grandparents, your parents, their grandparents, whatever that might be. Look at the things that exist within your family and really get knowledge of the path that you're on, and any obstacles that you might come across, or any advantages that you might have. But pay attention to your body and get to know your body, sis. Like, it's easy for us to pay attention to like all of this and to look good and to invest in our beauty, but wisdom says I need to know what I'm working with. I need to know where I'm starting from, and I need to plan accordingly. And so also be encouraged to any of the sisters out there who are dealing with any health issue, any physical issue. I just pray absolute like healing, but also understanding for you. And just more importantly, I just pray for peace. Like, I actually pray for true peace and true joy in whatever it is you are battling, whatever it is you might even be waiting for results for something. I just pray for true peace, right? And I encourage you, go and get that appointment, sis. Go and get that checkup. Don't be scared. Don't be scared of the outcomes. There's nothing that you have to fear at all. There just might be some things that you have to overcome, and we're overcomers around here, okay? So I will talk to you in my next video. Definitely make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you like this as well. Turn on your notifications so that you never miss a video from me. I'm about to go and record a podcast episode, and I'll talk to you all very, very soon. And as always, dear sister, stay beautiful and stay blessed.